Assalamu alaikum students. So today we are going to start with the part 16 of this chapter number 2, biology standard 12th, reproduction in lower and higher animals. So today we are going to start with a topic that is MTP, that is also called as medical termination of pregnancy. It means that the doctors allowed the patient to go with the termination of the pregnancy. So in this, it is basically an intentional or voluntary termination of pregnancy before full term. It is called medical termination of pregnancy. It means that the doctors, they allow the patient, they allow the mother to go for this termination of pregnancy before the full term of the baby. So this content or this thing is called as what? Medical termination of pregnancy, also called as MTP or induced abortion. It is also called as induced abortion. MTP is essential in case of unwanted pregnancies. It is essential in cases of unwanted pregnancies or in defective development of fetus. Basically, MTP is done mostly in the cases of defective development of fetus. It means what? It means when there is any defect is seen in the fetus at the time of the all the 9 months of the pregnancy, at the several stage of pregnancy, one test is done, and then that test is called as amniocentesis. Through that test, the doctors come to know that the specialized person, they come to know that there is a whether the fetus is healthy enough or not. So once they get confirmed report from the department, they will assign and they will say that's the person can go for the further pregnancy. Okay, if they will see any of the defect in the development of the fetus, then they will say to the patient that to go for the MTP. Otherwise, it will be not good enough for the baby, for the fetus. Therefore, MTP is essential in case of the unwanted pregnancies and also in the defective development of the fetus. It is safe during the first trimester of pregnancy. A lady can go for MTP during the first trimester of pregnancy. It means during the first 3 months of pregnancy. The defective development of fetus is examined by amniocentesis. The defective development of fetus is examined by amniocentesis. Likewise, just now I said you that if there is any of the defect is seen in the fetus, then it is confirmed by the one of the test, and that test is called as what? Amniocentesis. Now we will see what is done in the amniocentesis. Amniocentesis is a process in which amniotic fluid containing the fetal cells is collected. Amniotic fluid, which is there in the uterus, which protects the baby, that fluid, it contains the fetal cells. It is collected using a hollow needle inserted into the uterus under the ultrasound guidance. The chromosomes are studied now what happened? The chromosomes, they are studied. The chromosomes of the fetus, they are studied to see if any of the abnormalities are there or not, to see the abnormalities in the developing fetus. But the dangerous trend is the misuse of amniocentesis to determine the sex of the unborn child, which is one of the crime in our country. Okay, the determination of sex is a crime in our country, which is also done at the time of amniocentesis. which is illegal in our country. Frequently, if the fetus is found to be female, it is aborted, which is totally illegal. In India, what is done in small town or in small villages, till today, some of the cases are there where they find out the sex of the fetus, and when they come to know about that, if the sex of the fetus is the female, then it is aborted, which is totally illegal. So, the government of India has legalized MTP Act in 1971 with strict conditions to avoid its misuse. I am repeating it once more. The government of India has legalized the MTP Act in 1971 with strict conditions to avoid its misuse. Its misuse should be not done, right? So its misuse is what? To determine the determination of the sex of the child. Now from the figure, we can see what is there in the figure. Amniocentesis is done. Basically, it is used to extract the fetal cells for the genetic analysis. Fetal cells are collected. They are collected from the amniotic fluid for the proper genetic analysis of the baby, for the proper chromosomal analysis of the fetus. Under the first stage, what happens? Ultrasound used to determine the position of the fetus in the uterus. Then, needle is inserted through the abdominal and uterine wall. A needle is inserted through the abdominal and uterine wall. Amniotic fluid containing the fetal cells, they are extracted. What is next? The third stage is the amniotic fluid, which is there at all the four sides of the fetus. It is extracted. A little bit of the amniotic fluid containing the fetal cells is extracted. Then it is centrifuged. Centrifuge of extracted fluid and fetal cells is done. Centrifugation method is done. Then after centrifugation, cells is used to karyotype. Then karyotype is done. After that, risk associated with the amniocentesis. If there is under the karyotype, the specialized person, they will see whether all the genes, all the genetic makeup of the baby should be perfect enough. If it is not, then risk associated with the amniocentesis can be seen, like miscarriage could occur, needle injury to the fetus can be occur, then leaking the amniotic fluid or infection may occur. These are the risk at the time of doing the amniocentesis. But basically, this test is done to check whether the proper development of the baby is there or not. A proper genetic development of the baby should be there. So to avoid any of the genetic defect, this test is done. Now in this slide we will see what is next. Government of India, they has legalized the MTP Act in 1971 with strict conditions to avoid its misuse. Okay. Then Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 2017 under the Section 3 of the MTP Act 1971 was enacted by Government of India. The intention of MTP Act is to reduce the incidence of illegal abortion and consequent maternal mortality. As per the provisions of the MTP Act, only the consent of the woman whose pregnancy is being terminated is required. I am repeating it once more. As per the provision of the MTP Act, only the consent of the woman whose pregnancy is being terminated that is required. According to the MTP Act, pregnancy may be terminated within first 12 weeks. According to MTP Act of Pregnancy, it is what? It is the pregnancy is terminated within the first 12 weeks, more than within the first 12 weeks or more than 12 weeks but lesser than 20 weeks. So it should be between 12 to 18 weeks of the pregnancy. The registered medical practitioner's opinion is to mandatory stating the continuation of the pregnancy would involve a risk to the life of the pregnant woman or grave abnormal physical or mental health or it will give the abnormal physical or mental health or its substantial risk to the child or it will give a substantial kind of risk to the child. So these are the things which are there in the medical termination of pregnancy. Thank you all. So now in the next lecture I'm going to discuss all the remaining part of our chapter. Thank you so much.